Hello everyone, welcome to Insight Ophthalmology. I am Dr. Amrit. Presbyopia sounds complicated, right? But trust me, today we are going to make it super simple. We'll be tackling some numerical MCQs and by the end of this video, you will be calculating near ads like a pro. Before we begin, let me know in the chat what's that one thing about presbyopic calculation that confuses you the most. So drop it down in the comment section. Now, here's what's in store for today. We'll be solving 10 high-yield problem-based MCQs on the presbyopic correction. Each question will have 4 multiple choice answers and you will have 10 seconds to think before the answer reveal. Then I'll break it down and explain it step by step. So make sure you keep a pen and paper handy for calculation. Also, before we dive in, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you get access to the live chat where you can ask all your questions as we go along. So let's begin and discuss our first question. The first problem is an emmetropic 45 years old patient has a remaining amplitude of accommodation of about 3 diopters. That means the near point is 33 centimeters. Let me tell you, 100 divided by the amplitude of accommodation will give you near point in centimeters. Now, however, this patient wants to see clearly at a distance of about 25 centimeters. So what presbyopic correction does he require? Keeping 1/3 of amplitude of accommodation as reserve. So now let me start the timer. Okay, so time's up and let's see the answer now. The correct answer is 2 diopters. So if you got it right, congratulations. Okay, so now I'll try to give 33 will be roughly about 3 diopters, right? So that is your amplitude of accommodation. Now, he wants to see clearly at 25 centimeters. That means how much of amplitude of accommodation is required to see at 25 centimeters? It will be about 4 diopters. So let's solve it. Over here, you can see in the question that they told us something about the amplitude. Now, in this question, the question specifies that 1/3 is to be kept in reserve. So that's exactly what we are going to do, right? So over here, the amplitude of accommodation is 3 diopters. And we are going to keep 1/3 of this 3 diopters in reserve. That is 1 diopter. So if we are keeping this 1 diopter in reserve, how much amplitude is available for the patient for near vision? It would be 3 diopters minus 1 diopter remaining. And this is what we are going to supplement the patient, right? So the answer here would be 2 diopters. So I hope you understood that. Even if you didn't, don't worry, we are going to solve even more similar questions and that would make it all very easy to understand. Okay, so moving on to our next question. So this is problem number 2. Here, what you can see, a 50 years old emmetropic patient has a remaining amplitude of accommodation of about 2.5 diopters. So you can see over here 2.5 diopters and the near point is 40 centimeters. Now sometimes examiners will just give you the near point and based on that you have to calculate the amplitude of accommodation. Now this patient wants to read at a distance of about 30 centimeters and the question says that keeping 50% of accommodation reserve, what is the required presbyopic correction? So let me start the timer. Alright, time is up. Now let's reveal the answer. The correct answer here is 2 diopters again. So if you got it right, congratulations, well done. And for those who couldn't make it, let me again try to explain it to you. This is also very, very simple. Let me just erase this. Yeah. So here the question is that we have a 50-year-old patient. Okay, and his remaining amplitude of accommodation is 2.5 diopters. Near point is 40. They want to read at 30 centimeters. Now, if the patient wants to read at 30 centimeters, how much accommodation is needed? Very easy, 100 divided by 30. So that would be about 3.33 diopters. So 3.3 diopters is needed to see at 30 centimeters. However, the patient has about 2.5 diopters of accommodative amplitude, which makes it easier for him to read at 40 centimeters. Now, if the amplitude of accommodation is 2.5, and in this question they have given that 50% can be kept in reserve, it means only half of the amplitude of accommodation is available for the patient to use, right? So if we keep 50% in reserve, the patient will be using only half of 2.5, that is 1.25 diopter. So required is 3.33 diopters, and you subtract from it 1.25 diopters, and the what you are going to give the patient would be 2.08 diopters. So roughly it comes to about 2 diopters. Okay, so I hope you understood it very well. All right. So now moving on to the next question. Okay, so now we are going to give you a practice question. Alright, so this is your practice question. A 60-year-old emmetropic patient has a remaining amplitude of accommodation of about 1 diopter. Near point is 100 centimeters. If they wish to read at say 40 centimeters and we decide to keep half of their accommodation in reserve, how much presbyopic correction is actually needed? Okay, so your timer starts now. I hope all of you get this right. So the correct answer is again 2 diopters, and I would really like to congratulate all of you who got this right. And let's see how to calculate the correct answer here. So basically 60-year-old emmetropic patient, remaining amplitude of accommodation is how much? It is 1 diopter. We know that the patient wants to see now at 40 centimeters. That means the required accommodation would be how much? 1 divided by 0.40, or it could be 100 divided by 40 centimeters, and that would be about 2.5 diopters. Okay, so how much is required? 2.5 diopters is required. But how much patient has? Patient has about 1 diopter. But the question says that you have to keep half of his accommodation in reserve. So half of 1 is 0.5. So the patient will not be using 0.5. Only the other half he will be using, that is 0.5 again. So 2.5 diopter minus what is available for use. So ultimately you have to give 2 diopters. So it means that patient needs 2.5 to see at 40 centimeters. However, the available accommodation is 0.5. So now you have to give only 2 diopters instead of giving 2.5 diopters. So next question is, that is question number 4. A 55 years old emmetropic patient wishes to read at a distance of about 40 centimeters using Hofstetter's formula for average amplitude of accommodation. What is the presbyopic correction necessary, assuming half of the accommodation is kept in reserve? Okay, so let me start the timer now. Alright, time's up. So the correct answer here is 1.5 diopters. And all of you who got it right, I assume you follow our channel and you have seen the videos on amplitude of accommodation. Well done. Now let me try to explain to you the correct answer. Over here, the question is that we have 55 years old emmetropic patient. So whenever a Hofstetter's formula is given, the age is very important. So 55 years old patient, and he wishes to read at 40 centimeters. So if you would observe here, the amplitude of accommodation is not given. So you have to calculate the amplitude of accommodation using the Hofstetter's formula. So using the Hofstetter's formula, the average amplitude of accommodation is 18.5 minus 0.3 into the age of the patient. The age is 55. So if you put the values in this formula, the amplitude of accommodation would be 2 diopters. Now, what else is given? Assuming half of the accommodation is kept in reserve. So half of this 2 diopters will be 1 diopter. So what exactly is available for the patient to use would be 2 diopters minus 1 diopter. That is about, again, 1 diopter is available. What about the near demand? So here the patient wants to read at 40 centimeters. So 1 divided by 40 centimeters, 100 divided by 40. So either you can write it as 1 divided by 0.40 because this will be in meters. Or if you want to simply use the centimeter value, you can straight away take 100 divided by whatever near distance is there in centimeters. So that will give you the near demand, that is 2.50 diopter. So 2.50 diopter is what the patient needs, and 1 diopter is what is already available with the patient. So how much you have to supplement? You have to basically give 1.50 diopters. All right, so I hope that is clear. So this was the answer and the explanation to that answer. Coming to the next question. All right. So problem number 5. A 50-year-old patient has a near point of 50 centimeters. What near add is required to bring the near point to 33 centimeters? So your time starts now.
I've seen things that you wouldn't believe. I was lost.
Alright, so let's see the correct answer. The correct answer is 1 diopter. And so if you got it right, well done. For those who couldn't make it, let me try to explain it to you. So here, if you can see, the required add power would be dioptric demand at a new near point minus dioptric demand at a current near point. So that is a formula that you can use. So let me try to explain it to you. First of all, the current near point is 50 centimeters. That means the patient is able to see clearly at 50 centimeters. That means 100 divided by 50 would be his amplitude of accommodation, which is currently present. However, the desired near point is 33 centimeters. That means in order to see at 33 centimeters, the patient needs about 3 diopters of accommodation, right? So patient needs 3 diopters. He already has 2 diopters. So how much extra you have to give? You have to give about 1 diopter of accommodation, and therefore that was the answer. Now in these questions, you don't really have to worry about keeping the accommodation in reserve by the 1/3 or half of the accommodation. Straight away go to the point unless or until it is really mentioned in the in your question. Okay, so I hope that was clear. Now moving on to the next question, and that is problem number 6. Here, the patient has a distance prescription of about -2 diopters, okay, and he needs a near addition of +2.5 diopter. What would be their reading prescription? Now, till now, we saw all the patients were emmetropic, but now we have a myope with a distance prescription of -2 diopter, and he also needs a near addition of +2.5 diopter. So what would be the reading prescription? Okay, so think about it and let me switch on the timer.
I was lost until I found that I'm invincible. Nobody gonna bring me down.
Alright, so time's up. So what is the correct answer? The correct answer is +0.5 diopter. So if you got it right, well done. Even if you didn't get it right, don't worry. I'll try to explain it to you now. Alright, so here the patient has a distance prescription of -2 diopter. For a myopic patient, basically, if he has a distance prescription of -2, it kind of means that the patient is already using about +2 diopters of accommodation. Okay, so that is given. Moreover, they say that for near work, the patient needs +2.50 diopter. So if you see conceptually, the patient has 2 diopters of accommodation. He needs +2.5 diopters. So how much additional are you going to provide him? You are going to provide 0.50 diopter. If you don't want to do that, you can simply add whatever is there in the distance prescription to the near add. So distance prescription was -2 diopter and you add it to +2.5 diopters, and the net that you get is +0.5 diopters. So I hope that is clear. Alright, problem number 7. Here we have a presbyopic patient who prefers to read at 40 centimeters. What add power should be prescribed assuming their accommodation is negligible? Now this is a pretty straightforward question. Let me put the timer on. Okay, so time's up, and the correct answer here is plus 2.5 diopters. I really hope all of you got it right, and even if you didn't, don't worry. The required accommodation for 40 centimeters is very simple. 100 divided by 40, that will come to about 2.50 diopter. And moreover, here the patient has negligible accommodation, so you don't have to worry about his available accommodation, all that calculation of reserve and whatever. You straight away calculate the full accommodation required, and that will be plus 2.50 diopter correction. Alright, problem number 8. The question is, using the Hofstetter's formula, what is the expected amplitude of accommodation for a 45-year-old patient? So pretty straightforward question. The age is given. You just have to apply the Hofstetter's formula. Let me start the timer. Alright, so the correct answer is 5 diopters. And those who got it right, I really hope all of you got it right. So well done. And the explanation is pretty simple. Hofstetter's formula for average amplitude of accommodation is 18.5 minus 0.3 into the age of the patient. Age of patient is 45. You just have to substitute the values, and the answer will be about 5 diopters. Alright. Moving ahead with the next question. Now, before we do that, we already have a video on how to measure the range and amplitude of accommodation. So if you're not sure about the Hofstetter's formula and you want to learn more about it, moreover, you are interested in the test of accommodation like the push-up method, the pull-away method, dynamic retinoscopy, minus lens method, you can visit this video on our channel. It's a free video on tests for accommodation. Alright, so let's do some more practice. Practice makes us perfect. So the next question is, 55-year-old patient has a near visual requirement of about 25 centimeters, and the minimum amplitude of accommodation is about plus 1.5 diopters. So what is the required near add for this patient, considering 50% of the amplitude of accommodation is kept in reserve? So this should actually be now easy, since we have discussed so many questions. The timer starts now. Alright, so time's up, and the correct answer is 3.25 diopters. So I hope all of you got it right. Quickly, let us see the explanations. The near demand here is 100 divided by 25. So that is about 4 diopters. Okay, so the near demand is of about 4 diopters. However, they say that the patient has 1.50 diopters of accommodation. However, we have to keep half in reserve. So we will keep this half in reserve. How much is left for us to use? 4 diopters minus 0.75 remaining. So that is 3.25 diopters. Okay, so the correct answer is 3.25 diopters. Alright, so moving ahead. Next we have, alright, moving on to problem number 10. Here we have a 60-year-old hyperopic patient with a distance power of about plus 3 diopter. The near demand here is of 25 centimeters. So what will be the total near correction in this patient? So the timer will start now. Alright, so time's up. Let's see the correct answer here. The correct answer is about 7 diopters. So I hope you got it right. Well done. Now the answer is pretty simple. The explanation is pretty simple. Total near correction would be distance correction plus the near add. So you get 3 diopters plus 4 diopters. Because how did we get this 4 diopters here? We said that the patient wanted to read at, let me just put a thicker pen here. Okay, so we said that the patient wanted to read at 25 centimeters. So how much accommodation is required to read at 25 centimeters? Approximately 4 diopters, right? Because 25 fours is 100. Okay, so 3 diopters plus 4 diopters. So total is plus 7 diopters of accommodation. Alright, so let's see if we have more questions. Yes, we have one bonus problem. So here the question is, a 58-year-old patient has an uncorrected hyperopia of about plus 2.5 diopters and he struggles with near vision at 33 centimeters. The question is, what is the required near add for this patient? Okay, so let me switch on the timer. Focus on that term here, near add. Alright, so time's up. Let's see the correct answer. The correct answer here is 3 diopters. So those of you who got it right, well done. So let us quickly see the answer here. So here we did not ask you about the total correction needed. Because if we would have asked you about the total correction needed, you will just add the near demand to the hyperopic prescription. The hyperopic prescription is 2.5 and the near demand is 3. That means hyperopic patient needs this 2.5 diopters of accommodation usually. And along with that, to see at 33 centimeters, they would need an additional 3 diopters. So total accommodation needed would be 5.5 diopters, and that is what you are going to give. However, the question is asking just about the near add. That means at 33 centimeters, how much is needed? So that is about 3 diopters. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So this is very similar. We already solved one question on myopia where total correction needed was asked. So there the patient had say minus 2.5 diopters of accommodation. Sorry, 2.5 diopters of prescription or distance correction. And on top of that, if you have to give this 3 diopters, so you're just going to add this to 3 diopter and the net that you get would be about 0.5 diopters. Okay, so this is basically an algebraic sum. Alright, so I hope that is clear. So those were your 10 questions on presbyopic calculation. I hope that made sense. Now, before you leave, we already have videos on presbyopia and 7 ways to treat presbyopias. If you are interested, you can visit them. Also, a detailed video on what is accommodation and the various ways in which accommodations are tested, and the components of accommodation like accommodative response, range, amplitude, facility of accommodation, lead and lag of accommodation, even the relative amplitude of accommodation. We have an entire free course available on our channel. So if you're interested, the links to all these videos will be there in the description box, or simply you can visit the playlist on refraction. Before we wrap up, I have something really exciting to share with you all. It gives me immense joy to announce the launch of our first book, Self-Assessment and MCQs in Neuro-Ophthalmology. This book is designed for anyone preparing for FICO, FRCS and FRCOPT, or anyone interested in neuro-ophthalmology. It's packed with high-yield multiple choice questions that will challenge and enhance your understanding. So here's a look at the extensive table of contents covering everything you need to know. And this book is now available on Amazon, Flipkart, notionpress.com, and also available on Amazon stores worldwide. This wouldn't have been possible without this amazing community, and I would love to hear from you. What topics would you like to see in future books? Your feedback means everything, even if I should go on this author journey. If you do get a copy, I would be incredibly grateful if you could share your thoughts in a review. It helps us improve, reach more learners, and also let me know if you would like more books from me in the future. Thank you all for being part of this journey. Your support and enthusiasm means the world, and I hope we continue learning and growing together. Wishing you a wonderful day, and if today's session was helpful, don't forget to share it with your friends. See you soon, and a heartfelt gratitude. Thank you so much.
Deep in the dark, down on my knees, I've seen things that